Hello and welcome to the 25th video of the Project Sovereign series. In this video, I finally tackle those pesky phaser cannons. It's a complicated procedure, so let's get started. So I did it. I figured it out. How to make the detailed phaser strips. You recall I was having this problem before, that's why I didn't get to them until now. As to how to make these strips conform to this compound curve on the saucer. See, it curves around this way, but it also curves up this way, and trying to get all of this to conform to that shape was puzzling me, and I had the idea to use the conform tool, but I thought it was going to be a big mess, but I just took it step by step, and I ended up doing this, and it got easier and easier. I made these phaser strips as well, and I also made these on the bottom of the saucer. These were a lot easier because they're flat. These weren't really difficult to make at all. But the compound curve ones were pretty difficult to make. So I'm going to show you how I did it. Don't really consider this a tutorial because I just sort of stumbled my way through this. There probably is a much easier and more efficient way of performing this operation, but I'm going to show you how I did it for this build. So stick around and I will show you how I did it. So the first thing I want to do is create the shape of the phaser strip itself. Now this blueprint is a little bit blurry, but it's giving me the basic location of it. So I'm going to draw the line and I will unhide the rest of the ship. Just bring it up just so I can conform it to this, my actual saucer ship shape, if you will. So of course the first thing we're going to do is turn these corners into Bezier and adjust them to fit the curvature. Just like this. I'm just going to bring this just so I have a landmark. And what I want to do is just bring this up because I want it to match this curve of this armor plate right here. So I'll just bring it up here. Just go like this, which is pretty good. Bring it back to where I had it. And that'll do nicely. Now, before I do anything else, I want to make a copy of this line. And that will become clear as to why I'm doing that coming up. But for now, you can just forget about it. Now, I want to give this an outline. So go into spline mode, and I'm going to give it an outline of 2 meters, which looks to be about right, and that's the size I made the other phaser strips, so I'm going to make that into 2 meters. Next thing I want to do is fillet, or fillet, I don't know how you pronounce that. Just like that. That is looking fine. Now I'm going to extrude it, just so I can kind of see the amount of detail in there, how much I need. 20 is looking about right. I think we can do with even less. I want to make this as simple as possible. How about 15? Yeah. Yep. Just it's going to be less work as I go through. So I'm going to set extrude to 0, and I'm going to convert this into an editable poly. Next thing I want to do is I want to inset because I want to make this little lip right here. So I'm going to just use the inset. I want to flip this so it's facing the right way. And inset to 0.25 meters. 0.025 is what I meant to type, just to give it that little bit of a lip. Now that the inset operation has been performed, what I need to do now is to create this center ridge. And as you'll recall, I saved a line. So I'm going to copy this once again. I think it's a good idea whenever you perform an operation like this is to make copies of the thing that you started out with, just because you can always use it as a reference. And if you don't need it, you can always delete it anyway. Okay. So now what I want to do is I just want to bring this up and over to a point which I believe would be pretty much where the leading edge of this would be, like the outer edge. And I'm not going to get too crazy with, the precision. I just want it to look okay. I can always make adjustments later. But right now, this is probably going to be pretty good. Maybe move it a little bit more in. And I want to give it an outline of 0.3 meters. There we go. So not bad. Yeah, I could just move a little bit more. Just slide it over a little bit. Just using these as a landmark. And don't worry that it's too long. It can always be. I can always reduce the length when I do the cut perform, but I'm getting ahead of myself, of course. So just convert this to an editable poly. Extrude this. Okay. And then just perform the famous pro-Boolean imprint that you've seen so many times. Start picking imprint. There we go. Great. So next I'll be creating the actual spines for this. We're getting there. I know it looks like we're so far away, but we're closer than it looks. So stick around, and we'll continue with this phaser strip construction. So I created a blank that I'm going to use to cut in what will become the slots for the ridges that you see right here. So it's just an ordinary box. Now I could position this by hand, maybe, just by making copies. Even I can make multiple copies. I don't have to do it one at a time. But then I'd have to position them, and this rotates, and it's kind of a pain. So what can we do? We can use the line that we created. Once again, I'm going to create a copy just in case. And I'm going to put this in the center of the strip, just like so. And what I can do is, this is a pretty neat little trick here, is I can assign a path constraint to this. So animation, constraints, path constraint. You see this dotted line automatically appears. It turns to a crosshair when it goes over that line. So I just click it, and you see it's moved. So now if I move this move along path, see that? How it moves like that? So you can see it's not quite aligned yet. So what we can do is check follow. You see it spins around, but that's all right. We can just spin it back. Just spin it as perpendicular to this as we can get it. There we go. So now to make multiple copies of it, I want to see if I can get another phaser strip into view, just so I can get, I'm going to have to guess. It's a number I'm going to have to guess, just as long as it's close enough to these intervals to make it all look uniform. So tools, snapshot, and range from 0 to 100. It's set to 40 copies here. Let's see how that looks. That's actually, wow, that looks right to me. Cool. So now you can see we have 40 copies all moving along. Don't need to make any adjustments or anything like that. So pretty cool. I really like this technique. Now I'm going to bring this up to intersect, just like that. And let's see, I can get rid of this one, just because it's going to cut into the top. And this one, for that matter. And these two, just like that. Now I want to attach all of these to be one object, so I don't have to keep click, 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 right? It's just another time waster. So just select everything, isolate selection, deselect this, and isolate selection again. Click here, convert to an editable poly, and I'm going to attach, and you can see on my little chart here, nothing but the phaser emitter blanks that I've created, and the line, but I don't care about that, are on this list. So just select them all, attach, and isolate. All right, you know what comes next. And there you go. So now I've got my shape. What I want to do is convert this into an editable poly. Let me change the color of this because it's pretty horrid. I'm not sure how well it's coming across in the video. There we go. That's a lot easier to see. So I've got some cleanup to do here. Nothing really serious. All of these extra vertices have got to go because it's making n-gons everywhere. I want everything in the center here, like the center strip. I don't really care about the edge out here, but this center strip needs to be all quads. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these vertices and just make sure everything is taken care of before moving on to the next step, which will be conforming it to the shape of the saucer. I've cleaned it up about as good as I need it. I think this will be fine. I got rid of the edges here and here, and the edges up here too. And the vertices in the center here are gone. So now comes the big moment. So what I'm going to do is perform a compound object operation on this called conform. So what I'm going to do is just compound objects, but instead of pro Boolean conform, pick wrap2 object, and I want to make sure along vertex normals is checked. Then just click it. So you see something strange has happened. I'm going to isolate the new object, and it created a whole new copy of this front of the ship, this whole shape. It created a copy along with our shape here. So what I need to do is convert this into an editable poly. Go to element and click our phaser strip, invert, and delete. And there we go. So you see how nicely that's going to conform to the shape. I'm going to end isolate. And there we go. So it's completely just like a band-aid, right? Just splat right on the surface of our ship. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to assign my generic dark material to it just to make it easier to see. I'm going to select everything, and I'm just going to extrude it just a little bit to give it a bit of dimension. Actually, you know what? I'm going to extrude it to 0.250. Is that the height? Yeah, that's the height I've been using. I try and work in as like memorable numbers, if that makes any sense, as I can. Just so, you know, it helps to keep things uniform. I'm not constantly guessing. Okay, now I can shrink this, and I can extrude again. Only this time, negative, just a little bit. Yeah, 2.4. So you see what I did here? I've automatically created this ridge. So now what I need to do is I need to select all the polygons that are going to be raised. That is, it's probably going to be easier for me to deselect. There we go. I'm going to deselect all of these, and then I'll show you the rest, but you could probably guess it involves extruding and moving too. So almost done. Pretty exciting. Okay, so everything's been selected that I want to have selected. So now I'm going to extrude it, but just a little bit. Just like that. Should be fine. I'm going to deselect. These, and now I'm going to move. This is a little bit tricky. This takes a little bit of finesse, just like that. It's probably easier to do this part from the top. But like that. I just want to make sure that it's in line. That looks about right, don't you think? Yeah, this part I've had to do by eye, but that's all right. But yeah, this is really it for this part. Let's see, it's difficult to tell. Maybe a bit lower. Looks a little bit high to me. Just like that. Yeah, that'll work fine. Now the last thing that I need to do is these spokes right here. And these I just positioned in by hand. So I've made my copy, and what I did to make it easier was I repositioned in hierarchy. I repositioned the gimbal. So now it's pointing this way. It wasn't doing that before, and it's really difficult to get into place by doing that. So now I could just rotate it like this, and it's more or less going to be correct. So simply bring it to the top. Let's go like that. And again, this is all guesswork. It's not anything precise. I just want to get the look to be correct. So like this. And now I'm going to make a copy. Move it into place. And any of this kind of cleanup I can do. It's really not a big deal. So I'm just going to keep making these copies, then we'll have a finished piece. And there you have it. That is a complete phaser strip that conforms perfectly to this complicated saucer curvature. I created my little spokes and just cleaned up and smoothed everything, and that is about as good as I can make it, folks. So really happy to have this problem solved. It was vexing me for a while. I'm now free to move on to the rest of the ship. But first what I need to do is give it a symmetry modifier. The other side needs phaser protection too, right? So just move the mirror to X at 0, flip it, and there we go. One for the other side too. So now all the phaser strips are done except for this one right here underneath the, I guess, secondary hull. And I guess there's no other ones behind, which is really strange. I thought there'd be some on the pylons or whatnot, but looks like there's really no phaser coverage in the ventral aft section of the ship. And I guess I can get rid of these lines now. So just let me delete those because I don't want too much clutter. And there you go. So yeah, that's it. Phaser strips. I hope you found this video immensely useful, and I will see you soon.